Good morning, everyone. This is the Tuesday, November 29th, after the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday IPython Jupyter dev meeting, and I'm sort of coming back from the dead. I've been on the road for about 3 months, almost in continuous travel, so I'll be mostly catching up with what the team has been up to, and I see some new faces, so I'm kind of excited to see some of the reports and the new work, and I know that there's been changes to the meeting format, so I'll try not to interrupt too much by asking questions that have already been answered in the past few weeks. So have a way at it.
All right, great. Let's go to Notebook.
This was probably Thomas, but I think Thomas is traveling with poor internet right now, so I'll fill in. We're just a couple of issues away from Notebook 4.3 release, so if people can pitch in with a couple remaining issues or decides to punt them and go through and make sure that we've got some changelog highlights and things for what's new, then we should have a Notebook release in a couple weeks.
Great. All right, Darian, Jupyter Lab.
So there's a new set of features that aren't fully baked in yet, but almost there, that have to do with restoring the state of Jupyter Lab when you refresh the page. So the PR that's open now, there's one outstanding bug that I'm trying to fix, but basically what it does is when you refresh the page, every single widget that you had open before reinstantiates itself, and the widget that had the focus gets the focus. What we cannot yet do is rearrange the widgets if you had them split apart into multiple tab panels. What we can't do is put them in the order they were in before. But as far as iterative steps go, last week we had the ability of these things to reinstantiate. This week we have the remembering which one was current. And we're getting a bit better about handling if it can't open up one, sort of just forgetting that in the database. There's a long overview of the actual life cycle steps that it has to go through that's in the text of the PR that I linked in the hackpad. But the upshot for most plugin authors is really that if they just use the baked-in instance tracker, all of the state handling is basically free. They just have to say, here's how you generate a unique name for the type of widget that I am. So for notebooks, for instance, it just returns a path. And they have to say, here's how you generate the arguments that the command that creates me would need to recreate me. And that's pretty much it. The restoration can then automatically happen. We take care of all the complexity. So later in the week, once this stuff is merged, I'd encourage you all to play with it. That the fact that it's brand new and it's fairly volatile means that just for sanity's sake, in the help menu and in the command palette, there are commands that let you clear the application restore state, because you might find yourself locked in some sort of bad state and you just need to get rid of it somehow. Especially if you started your server in a different directory one time than you did another time, that sort of thing, that might cause a bad state. So you could use that help menu to just go, I made it the last item in the help menu, clear application, restore state. And it's stored in your local storage. So if you tell your browser to forget everything, or you open a new incognito window, it won't remember that. But at some point, we'll probably switch it to some different storage mechanism. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Thanks. Let's go to Min with Jupyter Hub updates.
Yeah, so both Jupyter Hub and NBDime are...
I was trying to unmute myself. Quick comment on Jupyter Lab before we switch topics that I added to the notes. I just wanted to thank the team because I gave a number of demos recently at various conferences, and Jason also helped me at NYU hosting a multi-hour demo at a data science event. And there's been really, really good reception from people. I think we're going to have potentially some very interesting collaborations that may pop up over the next few months that may sort of materialize with others wanting to contribute to the system, sort of large scientific projects wanting to contribute to the system. Overall, the demos work very well, and the architecture is kind of what people need. I spoke at the Gateways conference, which is a kind of supercomputing scientific web portals, web gateways, interfaces for science, and there was a lot of interest from a variety of centers in these tools. Matt Rocklin also prepared a really nice Dask demo that uses that provides real-time Dask visualization with Jupyter Lab plugins that works extremely well and kind of highlights exactly why the design kind of is the way it is and why that's a good thing for certain use cases. So I just wanted to pass that on to the team that it worked very well, and there's a lot of interest and it was very well received. So thanks, folks. Great job.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, but for me, just both Jupyter Hub and NBDime are in kind of final polishing release stuff. There's a docs PR from UV for Jupyter Hub, and with that, I'll release Jupyter Hub 1.7, and NBDime is in a similar state with I need to assemble screenshots, and Carol's helping out on some text in the docs, and Martin and Veda are working on some last merge conflict resolution things, but it's in pretty good shape, and it should be out. Well, it will be out this week because we'll be talking, demoing it out and helping people with it in France at the Jupyter Day Paris next week. Yep.
Exciting. Great. Let's see. I have Qt console on here, but no name. Your name's next to that, but I'm not sure if that's something.
Yeah, definitely wasn't me. But yeah, the Qt console is ready for release. Carlos Cordoba is we're gonna help him go since he's picking up a lot of the maintenance of that one for Spider and things. He's gonna actually go through the release process, and we're gonna help him see if there's any information missing. So we're kind of formalizing the handing off of that project, but it's ready to go. We're just waiting to spend a little time to actually go through the release steps.
Cool. Great. Let's see. IPy widgets, Sylvan and Jason.
I thought Jason was going to speak. I don't know if he's on the call.
Oh, I am.
Okay.
So what's the new format? Are we all speaking? Are we going through each project and speaking, or are there?
Yeah, so the format is that the discussion is clustered by sub-project or the different areas of development.
And each project should say something. Is that right?
I can, yeah. I don't think we got into those details. I think anyone who had something about their sub-project just, put it down here and put their name next to it, so it was clear who was speaking about it.
Got it. Okay. And so there's no notes anymore about I don't need to say anything. There's what's written in the bullet points is self-sufficient.
Yeah, some people are still doing the monkey.
Right. Forgot about that. Yeah. We're just working really hard on trying to get a 6x release out for IPy widgets, doing a lot of backwards compatibility and styling overhaul. And Sylvan's working on the embedding work, just trying to make the transition from the 5 series to the 6 series go well, because there's quite a bit of code overhauling that we did for 6. And we'll keep plugging away on it.
For the benefit of anyone listening or who watches the video after, do you foresee any significant backwards incompatible changes, at least at the Python level API or at the JavaScript level API?
At the Python level, yeah. At the Python level, there will be some deprecated APIs that will be definitely removed. So that's the main thing.
Yeah.
On the JavaScript side, it it's completely new if you want to make a Jupyter Lab widget. And the main backward incompatibility is on the subject of default values on the JavaScript side. If you want to have embeddable widgets, the syntax will be a little bit different, but transition should not be too hard.
And when you say it'll be completely new if you want to make a widget, does that mean that an old one will absolutely not work at all, other than, I mean, beyond the small default value changes that you mentioned, or simply that there's a new way to make them, but people could people could still use the old APIs?
So the old APIs work. Everything works for the old notebook. You just need to change the way you define default values if you want to have a short serialization of the widgets for embedding widgets, because so that you can skip default values. So that is good. It's the main backward incompatible change. If you want to make a Jupyter Lab widget library, you need to write in the Jupyter Lab extension, which is completely new.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Got it. I think I missed hearing the lab fragment at the end of that. Got it. Makes sense.
Looks like GitHub Automation is next. Matthias, what are you working on these days? We cannot hear you. I think you're muted.
Hey,
Nope.
Jamie, I just copy pasted some of this stuff, so I don't know if this is still relevant or not.
Oh, okay. You copy and pasted from last week, or?
Yeah, and just cleared out some of the stuff, but I didn't clear out Matthias's bullets, so.
Oh, okay, no problem. So Matthias, we still can't hear you, so can you give us a thumbs up if it's okay to?
And if I remove my earplug, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, okay, great. So sorry, there is some echo. So nothing really new with the GitHub automation. It was like we had Thanksgiving and everything. And I asked something to GitHub because it uses a beta API, and I want to know if there are going to be changes. I've been mostly working on putting the IPython, mastering IPython 4 book on IPython.org and responding to Pact because the discussion was going nowhere. So I responded. It was already on the website last week, and still no feedback on the book policy. So if you have if you have comments, please give your comments soon. Otherwise, we will assume it's a final policy. Working on PyCon talk and tutorial proposal. The tutorial proposal I'll do tomorrow, so I want to try to send the current one today. I gave a link. If you have any feedback, please try to speak up before end of day, especially since Mike Bright, with whom I'm doing the tutorial, if nothing change, is in Europe, so won't be able to give feedback this afternoon. And also working on the talk proposal, but this one is getting late also, and I'm not working too much on that because the deadline is later. I would like to have feedback and work on it, but if there is not much iteration on it, I will just write it myself and submit it. And that's about it. Otherwise, I've been working on a grant report and things like that.
Speaking of PyCon, speaking of PyCon, that talk proposal is mostly about Python 3, so it's not very Jupyter specific. If anyone is interested in proposing a Jupyter specific talk, obviously that'd be great. For personal reasons, I won't be able to travel around that time, so I'm kind of out of this particular contest. And if that had already been discussed in the last few weeks, then ignore me, because I know that I'm kind of parachuting in late. But obviously, if anyone is interested in submitting a Jupyter specific talk on any aspect of the project, we're more than happy to support and encourage that.
I'm going to guess that one of the questions is who can go or who would go to PyCon, and then depending on who can go, we can decide which kind of subject we can talk about. Because otherwise, it's a vicious circle. You don't make a proposal because you don't know who is going, and you don't know who is going because you don't make a talk proposal.
Matthias, I'll definitely be there, so I will review whatever you've got later today.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matthias. Let's see. NB Convert is next on the list. That's Mike. You had a monkey there, but it's gone now. Do you have anything you want to share?
Said he had some internet connectivity issues.
Oh, okay. I think Mike may have dropped off, unfortunately. So we'll try to, hopefully he can connect by the end and we can wrap back and have him give us an update. Let's see. Sam. Hi, Sam.
Hello. Thank you all for entertaining my little input here. So we at Mozilla really rely on Jupyter notebooks for distributed data processing. So thank you to everyone in the community who's made the awesome tool available. And we're interested in seeing how the notebook might be modified to better support distributed data processing. And we've met with a couple folks from the project about that and been to another meeting or two. And because the notebook is so enormously popular and because there are so many different groups using the tool in this way, we thought it might make sense to try and get some evidence for how the tool is used. So we wrote a Python script that will take a collection of notebooks and extract features from it and allow you to do data analysis on how notebooks are being used. So it's sort of metadata analysis or data fooding your IDE or whatever metaphor you want to use. And what we have now is a very simple proof of concept written by Connor Amaris, who was not able to be here today. But it is good enough that we can clearly say, okay, this group of notebooks within our collection was used for distributed data processing, and this one wasn't. So that's kind of like a hello world level analysis. But we think it shows promise, and we would love to sort of share it with the community and have you all bang on it and see if this is a fruitful potential way to think about understanding the use of notebooks at scale across many organizations, and get some common understanding of not the final presentation one that everyone's polished to within an inch of their lives, but the ones that people are using day to day to get work done. Yeah, we have a GitHub repo up. Please grab it and run it. Please also just send us pointers to collections of notebooks. We would love to, we're happy to run the analysis ourselves. And if anyone on the call has comments or feedback or questions, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah,
this is very. Go ahead, Fernando.
I just have a quick question. This is great, and I'm very excited to see it, Sam. Thanks for pitching in. Quick question: Are you how are you? Do you have a classifier that you're training, and if so, is it supervised with labels that you provided in advance on, or how are you doing the classification?
Right now, it's a very crude k-means cluster, but this is really proof of concept level code. Like, there's nothing magic to it. We go through and we set a Boolean. Did it read data from S3? Does it appear to use PySpark, which Spark is the distributed processing framework? And that gets set to 1.0 if it does, and it gets set to 0.0 if it doesn't. And there are about 10 features, I think, in our example data set. And then we just run a very crude clustering algorithm. So the value isn't in the specific clustering we've done. The potential value is, have we shown an approach that other people can adopt and then start to do the usual dance of pick some features, run some analysis, realize that your features should have been different, run some clustering, realize that your model approach should have been different, all that stuff that people do all day. So that's the state of things.
That's fantastic. This is super in line with some of the things that I've been talking about at the More Sloan stuff and also with other people. And UV and I had been, and Stuart and Matthias had started some path down getting, rather than dealing with the analysis first, we were going to try to scrape every notebook off of GitHub that is publicly accessible. And that would seem to be, once that data set is assembled, would be in line with this kind of, we were doing it with this sort of work in mind. I was thinking less in terms of features and more in terms of like NLP applied to programming languages type things, but like that they're equally good, and this is great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And yeah, Connor's done a little bit of GitHub scraping also, and I banged my head against it. There might be some room for us to sort of organize and collaborate on data collection, since that can be a big pain in the butt. And another thing is getting organized on outputs. You know, hey, I went and looked at this collection of 800 DAS notebooks, and here's what I found, and here was the script I used. Blah 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 blah. We can obviously just start with gists on GitHub, but there may be a point at which we want to get more organized than that. But yeah, please grab it and go crazy.
Sweet, thanks. I'll send you an email. Can I find your info online? I'm guessing.
I'll just drop it right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, did you want to share some of your work with the group today?
Oh, sure. So the thing that is most relevant to share is some further movement forward on header ID filtering, specifically trying to get it to parity or mostly parity with Pandoc, and figuring out what that actually means is fun. And so in Python, this is going to require using the regex library, not RE, because we need access to Unicode property classes. I'm trying right now to find a good JS library for this. Xregex seems like the best thing that we've got going for us, but I could be, I don't actually know this subfield as well. So if anyone has any known issues with it, or if they know something else that they like better for this kind of purpose, I'm all ears. And I will take silence as you all love that library. It's the best in the world.
We're thinking about it. Great. So let's see. We have a new name for me.
Alternatively, none of us knows anything about it, Mike. So that's
I know. I was joking. Sorry, you can't see my face, and so you couldn't see the wink. Apologies.
Sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
Oh, sure. There's a new name on the roster for me, Curtis Passfield. Hi, Curtis. Or is maybe, I can't see who it is. It's in a conference room with nice black.
Yeah, I think that's Pete.
Yeah, it's me. I guess somebody else uses blue jeans here. So Curtis, who I don't know.
We're going to call you Curtis now.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. You can call me Curtis. I've been called worse. I have nothing major to report. Fourth quarter is very busy around here, so I haven't had a lot of cycles to spend on Jupyter. But yeah, I'm hoping, and I know you got back to me on the MB format PR, and I just wrote back to you. I will go and make those updates. And I think I opened one Jupyter Hub bug about a username field, and if I find some cycles, I'll try to jump on them in. That's about it for me.
Super. Anyone else on the call who'd like to share what they're working on or provide the group with any updates? All right. Fernando, do you have any other updates you'd like to share with the group?
No, not really. Meetings, kind of hovering around Jupyter, but I guess the highlight of it is that, as I said, not just about Jupyter Lab, but that in general, the response around various venues continues to be very positive, and I try to tell people that everything that I'm saying, the credit goes to all of you guys and not to me. But I want to reiterate that here with the team. But yeah, otherwise it's been mostly grant-related stuff. We have the project report coming due this week, which I really appreciate the help that you folks all gave me through the dev meeting, and I know a number of you are still working on that because it's making the process a lot easier, and other various kind of project admin related things. But no, it's good to be back though, and my travel frenzy is over, so I'll be much more regularly around. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Okay,
so
everyone.
One request.
Sure.
Can we try to clean up the notes, and I can take care of part of that, and try to send that to the mailing list, because I think that having a nice written summary, which is not on the hackpad, would be nice to engage the community. Because watching the video to catch up with everything here it will take close to half an hour, while written notes are faster to go through.
It is possible to double speed on YouTube. Just pointing out.
Yeah, but like when you're commuting in a...
You're proposing that the hackpad notes are posted on the mailing list.
Yeah, but as is are really hard to understand, because most of it need to have you need to have heard the conversation to understand what things are about. So I would like to trim the note, remove what's like, even if we copy somewhere else, remove what is not relevant for the mailing list, and extend a bit the bullet points that need more explanation. Like we had some conversation, some back and forth, like about backward compatibility of widgets or some clarification about some points, and were not taken, which means that people who are not on the call, like Thomas or Brian or Damian, will have a hard time catching up with us because they will have to listen to the video. So I would like to see if we can make the note a bit better, and then like assume it's going to be posted publicly as a blog post on the mailing list, and then post it on the mailing list, so that people can read that.
Do you want to take a cut at that and see sort of how much effort it entails? Because I mean, the problem with these things is obviously that if we add after every meeting a task that ends up being half a day, it's not going to get done. So if you want as an experiment, why don't you give it a try and see how much work is it to do that? And if we can manage to do it in a very lightweight way, I think it's a very good idea. But as always, people are pretty cycle constrained in general, and so the balance of I'm being sensitive to the fact that it's hard to commit people to even extra work. But if you want to do an experiment and let us know, sort of getting something readable takes 15 minutes, that's one thing. Getting something readable takes 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also saying that now, so that for the next meeting, if you can pay slightly more attention when you take notes, that it can be easier to turn into text, it would be easier. I doubt I can do it perfectly this time, but I'm sure if you make a small effort on a couple of weeks, it would be nice. But I will give it a shot.
And if we can try to keep the notes a little bit more readable in that way as we go, that certainly could help. So, or maybe an alternate way to say it is see what can you do in 30 minutes, and put a clock. See what you can do in 30 minutes, and we'll see what we can get done if we cap this task with a pretty tight time limit. How does that sound?
I'll do that.
Okay, that's great, and I like a lot of these ideas that will enhance how we manage the project overall. And I know I mentioned last week that as a follow-up to the project meeting, our fall project meeting, that I wanted to schedule some periodic tutorial sessions for the team that are completely open. So one on Jupyter Lab, Jupyter Hub. And then also a project management one. And that one, I would hope to bring together folks like Matthias and Jason and Carol and, all the people who have provided really great suggestions on things that we could implement to help communicate progress across all the different sub-projects. So I would love to do that in the next couple of weeks, so people feel like that we're moving forward in that area. this week I'm also working on the grant report and some of the kind of wrapping up from the dev meeting. So, I would love to get those tutorials scheduled in the next couple weeks.
I just wanted to plus one the idea of the tutorials, especially the Jupyter Hub one. That's one thing that I failed to mention. It wasn't just Jupyter Lab. I had a lot of discussions while traveling around over the last few months on Jupyter Hub, and a lot of questions on, how do I do it if I'm trying to do this? And obviously I pointed people out to the repo that we have with the little talks, and it's already a very, very useful resource to have. But I think a renewed kind of live mini tutorial like this that could be probably relatively low effort for folks like Carol and Min and Yuvi who kind of know the ins and outs of the system very well, but who could be very valuable to outsiders would be a really good thing to have. And I think if we get into a habit of doing these things online, lightweight, relatively informal, so it's not a huge burden for us, but we do them in a way that really helps the community, I think that would be great.
I think we can put together a proposal for January or something for that.
Okay. Great. I will file that away, and then I'll hold you to it. Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll wrap up for today, and have a good week. We'll see you, some of you on Friday, and the rest of you next Tuesday.